Good evening. Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Please note that the opinions voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network nor our sponsors. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paranormal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malek and psychic demonologist Jennifer Malek as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rylander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hey, everybody.
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate Magazine Radio over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are also heard on WCET 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, High Point Radio 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, and the Rift Radio Network family out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome one and all. And hello to everybody in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including our archives-like page on Facebook called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's upcoming in the near future. We hope everyone's doing well, as always. Spring is finally here in northern Wisconsin. I really don't think we're going to get any more snow. I'm hoping we don't. It's one of the knock-on-wood kind of things. But be that as it may, it's beautiful out, and we're happy for it. Today we are doing a two-part show. For the first part, we'll have paranormal investigator Ted Van Son on. The second hour, we will change gears and go into the Paralogian Report, news and analysis. But first, as always, let's do our shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who share our show banners this week. We appreciate it greatly and thank you kindly. Who do we have?
This week we have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Paranormal Soup, JJ Demelosh, Jamie Demelosh, JJ Paranormal, Metaphysical Bounce, Howie Odell from the Orion Effect, Kat Hobson at WBHM, Lawrence DeMisa, Jean Broida, Lisa Renaga, The Rift, Sudan, Lori Kreslaw, Jennifer Inez, Elaine Dawes, Edna McLean, Trish Freudel, and Ted Wolf.
All righty. For the first hour, we have a guest who has made several appearances on TV. including the Travel Channel, Destination America, and Paranormal Survivor. His name is Ted Van Son. He is a paranormal investigator with the Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators. I hope I said that right. He's also we'll find that. He's also a radio talk show host at WLFE. His show is called ParaTalk Radio. Let's welcome Ted Van Son to the show. Welcome to Paraversal Universe, Ted.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Alrighty. Did I pronounce that correctly, by the way?
Yeah, it's Van Son.
Okay, and is that Genessee Valley?
Yes, Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators.
Okay, awesome. So we always ask our first-time guests to tell us how they got into their respective fields of interest. In your case, it would be paranormal investigating. Can you tell us about your beginnings in the paranormal, and then we can go from there?
Sure. That's a long story. I'll try to make it short. I started out when I was really young, to be honest with you. I had my first experience when I was like 7 years old. And my grandmother had passed away the afternoon before. And I didn't know that. And that night she came to me while I was, laying in bed. She kissed my forehead and told me everything would be all right. And the next morning I went down and told my, parents and stuff, and they told me, well, your grandmother passed the afternoon before, so that's impossible. So
wow,
that's when it started. And then I got out of high school in 1985, and but all through there, growing up as a teen, you always get interested in what has happened, and something like that just stuck with me throughout my childhood up into my teens and then young adult, and started doing research, reading books, anything I could get my hands on, everything from Dr. Hans Holzer to I think the Warrens had just did a seminar at the SUNY Geneseo College the same year, and so I was, in trying to get as much information as I could, and then in '87 I actually started my own group.
Nice.
And that's where it went. I went from there, and now Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators was founded as a second group to mine in 2008, and going strong from there.
That's awesome. How is your family regarding the paranormal stuff as you were growing up? Were they receptive, or were they more skeptical?
Well, my father's Roman Catholic and not real church going, but he just kind of shrugged it off. It took him a long time to kind of open up to what I was researching and thinking about and talking about. My mother is half Native American, and they're very spiritual, and she's always believed in spirits and ghosts and so on and so forth, and very superstitious as well. And so it's, family was okay. My siblings were the same way. They were pretty much like me. They believed in everything, and so it was okay of a childhood when it came to that stuff.
So, what kind of paranormal investigator would you describe yourself as?
Well, I've been in New York most of my life, so the majority of the calls or the things that we have investigated over the years has been mostly hauntings or, I would say, noises in homes, residential stuff. And
Right.
I haven't really, delved into, monsters or anything like that. I want to. In fact, I was supposed to go on a Bigfoot expedition this past month, but I didn't make it. And
All in due time.
yeah, all in due time. So, I mean, it hasn't, it's more the hauntings and the spirits and ghosts and, what people have residentially. I have done a lot of research on my own when it came to wanting to get involved in the monster side, but nothing too in depth, to be honest with you.
For us at the NWPS, for sure, the majority of the calls we get are about either their home is haunted or they're haunted, or that they believe they are anyways.
Right.
For sure. And I could see in New York being a much more, there's so many more people in New York than, for example, where we are in the middle of nowhere.
Well, definitely, but like I'm in the country in New York. I'm not anywhere near a major city. So it's still pretty much country out here, but there is a lot of people in the state of New York. Some very old buildings as well, and so it's definitely interesting living here and hearing from people of what they think they have. I guess the best way to put it.
Right. Well, tell us about your team. Perhaps you have to give some shout-outs.
My team has changed. You know how paranormal teams are. They change frequently with members, especially when they start to grow, their own families, I guess is the best way to put it, with kids and jobs and so on and so forth. And like right now, my sister is what I kind of, her name is Tina, and she is a lead investigator for our organization. She specializes in children's spirits. She's been a single mother for years, so she has that tie, that connection, with kids.
Right.
And she also speaks German as well, so that kind of helps in certain situations. And also with animals, which is great to have her on board. We started out with two twins. Both as one is an investigator, the other one is our equipment tech, and that was amazing to have twins on a team. To be honest with you, it can be confusing, but at the same time, it's very cool to have twins on the team. So that would be Mike and Matt. Then we have it is family oriented, GVPI. That's what I call it, short for Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators. Samantha, my niece, she's also involved, and she's relatively new to it, but her trailer that she lived in was actually had a little spirit of a boy in it, from what she claims. So she's in there with us. I have a child banging on my window here. My godson, I'm actually at my niece's, and my godson is a Ghostbuster. That's what he calls himself. He's really into ghost busting. So I think that's my future paranormal investigator.
Yeah, one of our investigators has a son he has been into it ever since I can remember. Ever since his father joined the society, he's been just super interested in the ghosts and everything. And right now he is 16, just not old enough to participate on his own accord, because he's a minor. But
right.
At the same time, it's years go by and watch him grow up, and he's still got an interest and yeah, so for sure that's really cool.
And you can do all sorts of training and education with them ahead of time, which is great for a 16-year-old. They can start gaining some of the information and knowledge, especially, pointing them to books, literature, even, with today with YouTube. There's so much out there, but it's just keeping a handle on what is real and what's not real, but you definitely can educate them at the age of 16 and up. Like, well, my godson's only 6, so he's good with a Ghostbuster PlayStation or Xbox or whatever he's got for now. So
right. So,
but I'm a strong believer in education, to be honest with you. So I think, if you get somebody like that that's interested at that young age, education is very, very important.
A lot of teams out there, half the teams, it seems, they forego the metaphysical approach to paranormal investigating. The other half of the teams embrace it or will use it. They're not afraid of it. are you open to metaphysical such as psychics and intuitives and that kind of thing?
I was just going to ask you to elaborate a little bit, but when GVPI first started in 2008, we had no interest in having psychics, intuitives, as you put it, sensitives, on our team whatsoever. Only because we try to eliminate things that can't point us to fact or as close to fact as possible. And sometimes having a psychic or a medium, to ask them not to spout out while you're doing investigation what they feel and what they see is very hard. We tried, and we asked them that if they had any personal experiences or feeling things or whatever, pull somebody aside, or when we go outside or so on and so forth, write it down, and let's just see if it at the end of the investigation period, if anything matches up with what they were getting. I think it's very tough today in this field to put too much faith in anything that we use, whether it be a psychic or a tool, a gadget, unless you actually sit down and do your experimentations and do your research and your history and so on and so forth. I mean, they all have to match up. You have to be able to look widely. You have to have a really open mind to everything, and then just add them up, see what coincides, see what goes together. And it took us a while to say, okay, well, let's bring in a medium, let's bring in someone that has intuitive possibilities, and let's see where they can point us. Let's see if anything that they get matches with what we are experiencing or what the client has experienced. And I'm not going to tell you, sit here and tell you that it's 50-50, because I can't honestly tell you that. I don't think anybody in the field can honestly sit down and tell you that it's fact. This is still a new field, and whether it's 25 years in the investigating, 30 years, 50 years, we still have no definite answer. Beyond any hypothesis, we have no definitive proof that ghosts or spirits or hauntings exist. There's a lot of things out there that are unexplainable, and until we find a way to, I don't know, I guess the word I'm looking for is to draw something from it and actually have definitive proof that there's, it's sort of like, how you go to the doctors, they can put a needle in you and draw blood out and tell you, your DNA or what diseases you may carry, or, all that stuff with your blood. It's sort of the same way when it comes to a haunting or a spirit or anything like that. We have to be able to get something, whether it be a tally of what type of energy is, or something to point us that this truly exists, other than just stories, guesses, any hypothesis whatsoever. And in this field, I try to do the best I can. I use a lot of old school stuff mixed with some of the newer things. And, you work with a scientific theory. There's just so much in this field that you have to do to try to prove or even disprove what's happening with any of it. And, a psychic medium, if they can point you to it, great. If nothing matches up, I don't know what to tell anybody. We've tried both. We still use both. And sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't. So the metaphysical side of it is just like using a ghost box or anything else. It's a theory. It's a process. It's something we're trying to get us closer.
Yeah, and it's definitely important to have protocols when you're using different equipment, or like with psychics, like exactly. A good experienced psychic knows that it could be dangerous to walk in someone's house, and if they see or pick up something that is disturbing, not to just blurt it out. You know what I'm saying? Like when we go in and we do a preliminary and the psychics do their walk, they keep the stuff to themselves until after the preliminary is done and we can discuss it as a group, and again, it's just a tool to get information. It's not like it's just one spoke on the wheel. Ooh, it's that time.
Yeah, it's time for our first commercial break. You're listening to Paraversal Universe. We'll be right back with our guests after these commercials for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our first commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we'd like to take a minute to thank everyone who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art director Lawrence D. Miza, music theme by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, producer and owner of WBHM Kat Hobson, also to Howie Odell and Lisa Renaga and the Rift family, and to Michael Vera at WCET-FM. Thank you all for carrying our content and working together on our behalf and the behalf of our audience everywhere. And, of course, a huge thank you to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all.
Amen.
An appreciation to all the various platforms we are on, including iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Dailymotion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, Podbean, Google Play, Mixcloud, and Paranormal Livestream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. This segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, Wisconsin's alternative to MUFON. I'm back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking with paranormal investigator Ted Van Son from the Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators. Ted, are you still with us?
Oh, yeah.
So we have a question for you that came in during the break from chat.
Okay.
Given the advance of modern technology, have you ever run into haunted technology items such as haunted cars, computers, cell phones, etc.? I ask because of the need to have properly working equipment and how this connects to paranormal theory.
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff out there today because of the advancements that have opened up to us that we all have to work with, and we all have to, for lack of a better word, mess with. And I think with radio itself, I mean, walkie-talkies, the two-way bands, and even just a standard radio and stuff, with all the technology and the amount of equipment that we carry, there's a lot of stuff that can interfere. And I think with saying that, you have to go out there and research all the tools, no matter what it is, and see, what it affects, especially if it hinders your investigation, especially if it causes an issue. You don't want to use it. You don't want to get any false readings, false information. Your goal is to have as much of the fact or the truth that you can come up with. And I think that's the biggest thing in the field is getting something that leads you to that quote unquote golden fleece. You know what I mean? And with all the equipment that is out there, we have to, weigh it. We have to see, how it affects us and if it's a tool we should use.
Alrighty.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that answered the question perfectly. Thank you.
So when we went to commercial break, we were talking about things that we see in the paranormal that is disturbing, and
right.
And we're not necessarily talking about like the demons and ghosts themselves, but the actions of paranormal investigators and how they conduct themselves.
Yeah, we would.
I'd like to. You had mentioned that there were a few things and I just wanted to give you the floor for a minute and I guess ask you about some of the other stuff that you've noticed.
Well, yeah, I get it. You had mentioned team members, and if they see something, feel something, like psychics and so on and so forth. If you experience something in a house, especially in a client's house, you have to remember that these people call you and they ask you for help. So you have to be as professional as possible, and that includes not spouting out something that may be negative or may take that investigation to a level where you don't want it to be, to where your client is even more afraid than they were before you got there. The other thing is you have to remember that your client lives there. So when you leave, they're still dealing with the situation. And I have seen it on several occasions that people, teams, I should say, come in with tools such as a ghost box. And, you hear them going through the ghost box and you hear the word demon, and then all of a sudden the investigators are flipping out and the client is standing right there going, what, I got a demon in my house? And now they're worse off than what they were in the beginning.
Yep.
So you kind of have to take a step back and think about how you're conducting your investigations and who should be involved with them first off. If you're involving a client, then obviously you don't want a tool that's going to about something like that to where it makes them not want to live in their own home. You have to be careful with how you're conducting your investigations. And that's what it really comes down to. And if you have investigators that are rude, that don't really want to be there, that tend to, let's say, not be in control of their movements, is the best way to put it, or their language, then you need to either remove that person, have a strict talk, or get rid of them. I mean, it really becomes a problem because your client should be your priority in the situation, not your investigators, and not something that accidentally could come through that make the situation worse. And that's my biggest pet peeve right now is your client comes first. So everything else is second. And you don't want to leave that place worse off than before you got there.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's our golden rule.
Right.
Is that must never make the situation worse.
No.
Because
Right.
then you shouldn't be there.
No, it's like another thing too, and it this we could speak on this too. It's like provocation. You get people that go out there and they watch these TV shows and they see people on TV doing it and they think it's okay, and so they'll go into these people's homes and businesses and they'll use provocation, and to the point where once they get what they want, 9 out of 10 times they'll just leave what they got, and then they'll leave the mess for the homeowners to deal with and somebody else like us or you guys that get called in to take care of
Right.
stuff.
And that happens frequently. There are a lot of teams out there. And like I stated in the beginning of the program, education is very important, and you have to educate yourself as well as your team members. Actually, we were saying it off air, but you have to have that education, and that involves all of it right from the beginning. And you have to be able to train your members to work in a professional level and know what they can and can't say at the time of interaction with their client or so on and so forth. You have to be professional, and we keep using that term. And to break it down, there's just certain things that you don't do. And in this world today, certain things like manners have gone out the window, and that's what is missing sometimes in our investigation is just plain basic manners. And provocation is another one. It's like TV shows are made for TV. It's entertainment. It's not fact. And that's another thing that has to be put out there to the public is that, hey, you can watch whatever show you want, but remember it's entertainment. The stuff that's happening there does not necessarily mean it's happening in somebody's local residence. And, for you to go in there and spout out certain things and chase around a so-called spirit and trying to get it to react to you by swearing at it or throwing things at it or, making it mad is not the correct way to do it. First and foremost, with Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators, we tell our clients we are observers. That's who we are. We go in and we collect data, but we do it as observers. Then if we find that we need to connect, then we try certain things, but it's all a process. And it's not a one-time deal where it's 4 hours. You have to realize that most investigations take days, weeks, months. There are several investigators I know, including myself, that will go to a place that a client's having a real issue, and you sleep on the couch for 5 or 6 weeks. You can't. TV shows are entertainment, and that's the best way to put it. That being a true paranormal investigator or someone that really cares about their clients, you're willing to do anything to make it better for them. And you have to take the steps necessary to make that happen.
Them are really good points.
Yeah, it's like when we have a thing too, and we talk about, when you have psychics or mediums do stuff, what we do is we'll go to the courthouse to look up records of the property. We'll talk to locals around the area. We'll contact or visit the local historical society. And if what's picked up by the psychics, mediums, or intuitives that meshes, then,
Right, then it gets brought, and then we can discuss it.
But if we're in one of those instances, like you had mentioned earlier, that they're getting stuff that doesn't gel with any of the activity there, then we don't bring it up.
Right.
Because it hasn't been vetted.
Right. No.
Yeah. And education and research and historical value is so important. One of the things that I like to do, and I kind of pass this on to other investigators when we have a conversation, is that no one has better information than an old-timer in the town that you're researching. So if you can find a couple old-timers sitting on a bench or walking around town, go up and introduce yourself and tell them what you're doing. Be honest with them and see if they have any stories, especially about the location that you're investigating. You can't always get what you want from the historian or even some of the records that are at the town hall or village hall, sometimes even county. Sometimes you have to go to the neighbors or, the old man that's sitting at the corner coffee shop that's been around for 80 years because he's been there long enough to know who's moved in and moved out or what incident, what fire, what murder, what accident, whatever. And sometimes you have to go. That's what I'm saying. For your client, you take every step possible if you're really, truly there to help these people as well as collect information and data. Then you'll turn over every stone, and you'll do it in a professional manner, and you won't just go there, do this, and leave your client hanging, because that's not the way to do it whatsoever.
You're right. Being responsible is definitely key.
Yeah.
And
and then another thing to point out too, when it goes back to, I want to go back to provocation for a minute, and that's just to say, and it's another thing that you had mentioned earlier. If you're going into places and you're using provocation, you don't know it's there, and so you're walking into these places with all guns blazing, so to speak, and you're yelling and you're cursing and you're just being obscene and really mean. You don't know what kind of spirit's there. You don't know if it's a human spirit. You don't know if it's an inhuman spirit. You don't know what kind of state this particular spirit or spirits are in.
Yeah, and you don't even know if there's one there, to be honest with you.
Right.
There are so many locations that you go into out of 100 per year, let's say you're really busy and you get 100 per year. How many of them truly have something that you can collect data from? How many of them really have a haunting or a spirit, quote unquote? I'm going to tell you, that's not many. A lot of them that you go to can be explained away, to be honest with you. And the research that we do, the only way this is going to work is if we do our research properly, we collect our data properly, we be responsible as individuals and as a team. We collect it, we share it, especially because there are locations where I have seen 20 different teams be in and investigate over, several years. And it's amazing how many of them won't even communicate with each other to say, hey, when you investigated that place, what did you get? And, it's a shame that they don't share, because especially if it's a client's location, okay? If you have teams that have been there before, they should be willing to share with you so that you can get to the bottom of it for the client.
Absolutely.
So sharing is important as well. Collaboration is very, very important.
You're right. And anytime that we get a client and they have had their place investigated before, we're definitely interested in who, and I definitely want to have a talk with them.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
So yeah, that's for sure.
Right. It's like the other things. Another thing we don't condone the use of Ouija boards. That's another thing. We tell people this all the time. We flat out refuse to use Ouija boards. It's not our protocol, and those things, as far as we're concerned, are nothing but doorways to let who knows what through. And so, yeah, that's one of the other things that we don't do.
How do you feel? Because some people,
right?
Some teams do use them. You know, personally for us, we don't.
For us
because
personally,
only the majority of the reports with them seem to be on the negative side. And for that reason alone, we just figure it's better off. If you have any tool, and the majority of the time you use that tool, you know, the stuff that is reported becomes negative, then I don't know. But how do you feel about that?
Well, it's like any other tool. I mean, if you're comfortable with using it and the client doesn't object to it, that's fine. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have an opinion either way. I've done my research on the Ouija board. I own 9 of them myself. I know several people that collect them as well.
Right.
And really, it's a misunderstood tool, and there are people that agree with them and disagree with the use of them. And I'm not here to side with either one. I think it's to each his own, you know. Myself, my opinion is that it's to each his own, and it's the same with like a ghost box because it's the same tool. And to me, it's just one is electronic. So, you know, it's all the same deal. You know, you use what you're comfortable with and what you're getting reaction from. And as long as you can find an arrow that points you to fact or as close to fact as possible, then great. You know,
Yeah,
that's what it comes down.
You're right. We always say that, like, if the homeowner is comfortable,
right,
and the paranormal investigators are comfortable, then there should be no issue. You know.
Exactly. But like I stated before, the Ouija board is one of those that has a bad reputation. It has been since its invention. Prior to that was the planchette or the writing planchette, and you know they all stem from the same thing. And like I said, it's I don't have an opinion either way. People are going to use them whether I care or not. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're not trying to
right
force our opinion on anyone.
Oh no, no. We, you know, everybody's got... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I try to stay negative I try to stay neutral.
Oh.
I try to stay neutral with some things because, to be honest with you, being in the field as long as I have, and I just celebrated, 32 years now, is that no one's right, no one's wrong. There's no experts in the field. We all have something to bring to the table. We just have to be open-minded enough to hear it.
Right. We could not agree more. And it's like, you know, we said before, and you said it perfectly, you know, not every team out there is the same way. Everybody's got their techniques and the stuff that they use, and whatever works for them is fine. You know, there's no right way or there's no wrong way.
Hey, in this day and age, there is, to every county in the state of New York, probably 3 teams. And it's growing. There are more people getting interested in the paranormal field of ghost hunting or monster hunting than ever I've seen in the past 20 years. And it's one of those growing phenomena, and it's unfortunate that old dogs like myself that are out there, been doing it a long time, there isn't enough platforms for us to educate or to keep people in line. And is it our job? That's the next question. You know, I know we all have problems with certain investigators or teams or the way people do things at times, but is it our job to correct them? In some ways it is. It should be. And then in other ways, like I said before, it's a new field. We're all doing our part. And who am I to tell them they're wrong? There are no experts.
Okay, everybody. I'm sorry. Let's continue this conversation after this next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our second break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, High Point Radio, and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we are on Twitter as the NWPS and MeWe as Paraversal Universe. Our like and group pages on Facebook are under various headings as well. Having said that, check out our Society's like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malek, Psychic Demonologist. Leave a like if you like what you see, and we always appreciate it. And there are some Facebook group pages on that we'd like you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one. The Lake Monstrosities group page is another. Feel free to join them both. We'd love to see you there. Each network mentioned has a group and like page on Facebook as well. So check for that. This segment is brought to you by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group page, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the chat room. Let's get back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking with paranormal investigator Ted Van Son from the Genessee Valley Paranormal Investigators. Are you still with us, Ted?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have you for one more segment, and I want to make sure that we cover your books, because you have 2 books, correct?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about those, please?
Yeah, I have 2 books out right now. They're both available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The first one is called Flashlight Recorder and Comfortable Shoes. It's a guide to simple investigation. Basically, it was written collaborated between myself and Mr. Keith Spratley, who works for the Department of Defense in the UK. And we basically had contacted each other and just said, hey, let's write this book together and put it out there to help the novice investigator, how to do things properly. And some ideas, some old school ideas are within the book as well.